Alright, hey guys, I just wanted to do a quick 12.1 kind of update video. Again, this is kind of an unscripted video, so I'm just kind of going off the changes as I read them, and we'll kind of have a discussion. So we'll post all the changes up. It's for Devourer specifically, but there are some caveats I have to pick up on just because they're general changes. First things first, we're going to be talking about the general PvP changes. So first we have our primary set stat bonus was increased to 15% rather than 12, and stamina was 5% rather than 10% for tank and damage dealers. So really what this means is you're going to be doing a little bit more damage because you have a little bit more intellect, and you're going to be a little less tanky by stamina purposes by 5%. However, there is something else I have to touch on just in a little bit, so we'll get to that later. Generally speaking, it's good if damage numbers are higher and health bars are lower if damage isn't spiky. Not too sure how that's going to affect many things, but it does mean that you'll be able to get a lot more kills. It also means healers will be a lot less, I guess, powerful because you will be able to actually get kills faster and more cleaner. The second change, obviously, is that stamina is 10% rather than 15% with the PvP trinket set bonus for healers. Makes healers a lot better to kill now. There are more optional targets to hit, and it's more optimal to hit them. For Battlegrounds, Battleground Blitz is the big one. I'm pretty sure this change does go into BGs, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. The 20% less healing in Battlegrounds, I've been asked about this a few times. I think it's really important. If you have been watching streams of mine or any stream in general over Battleground Blitz, you would just see how just grossly strong healers are right now. Preservation Evokers are the biggest, I think, criminal for this. They are just unkillable demons, and they have so many cooldowns to micro through that it just feels like you are fighting an uphill battle 24/7 trying to kill a healer in Battlegrounds. It also means that team fights are going to become a lot stronger in BGs, so if you were someone who likes playing team fight builds, then you will actually have a lot of damage you can do. That will mean more because healers are going to have to burn more mana. So as long as you can stop people from getting their leaves and resetting their mana bars, healers can die, teams can wipe. It's very just a positive opinion, in my personal opinion, that we are allowed to actually kill things now. As Devourers, though, we're still going to be playing mostly for nodes. However, it does give us a little avenue to maybe do some cheeky things in team fights. The next change is going to be for player health and creature damage increased by 25% of max level. This is one where we kind of need clarification if this is going into PvP or not, just because on paper it does not mention that it is not for PvP. So our player health should be increasing by 25%, which does offset that stamina nerf that we're getting on the set bonus trinkets. If that's the case, it does mean we are going to have longer kill windows. So health is going to be about, I think it's 18% higher or something like that. I'm not doing the math right now. I'm not really in the mood to. But in general, I think this is a pretty bad change for PvP if it goes through. If it does not go through, then it's fine. If it goes through, then we are going to be relying really heavily on certain specs just being really gross. I think RMP meta is still going to be pretty relevant, and that's going to be really painful for Devourer. So I'm not too sure how to feel about this, but if it goes to PvP, I think it's pretty bad overall. And then we got to talk about our changes in PvE and PvP. So first things first, we're going to go for the PvE changes. If you don't know how these work, unless they are very specifically stated not to affect PvP, all these changes do affect PvP. So we'll go through it one by one, and we'll see how it goes from there. I haven't read them yet, so I only know a bare minimum, but this is overall, I think, a pretty awkward shift. I'm not surprised by the nerfs, but it's pretty unfortunate how they go. So first things first, our mastery is getting completely shot. So it was a 1-to-1 ratio, if I'm not mistaken, when you went to Void meta, and that was now reduced by 66%. So you're only getting a 34% value out of your mastery now, which means we are going to value mastery far less than we're going to value crit or haste or versatility. Generally speaking, it's a healthy change. It was very disgusting that we could just go massive amounts of mastery and just get all this extra cosmic damage and just run people over. So I do understand why they did this. And personally, I think it was smart. Following up, we do have all ability damage increased by 32%. It's the offset to this. So while we have our mastery nerfed, what they're trying to say is that our damage outside of meta is now going to matter more. So things like Rolling Torment now become a really, really strong talent because you'll want to go into meta, collect your 40 souls, and then when you drop out, you get that 20% damage buff. On top of this 32% ability damage increase. So your damage overall is going to be more skewed outside of meta. So generally speaking, we are really going to like crit this season, I think, but we'll have to do some testing. We'll see what's going on. Collapsing star damage increased by 12%. This is just a pretty cut and standard. They're trying to force us into playing Collapsing Star during Void Scarred, and on paper, I don't mind it. I like the ability. It's a cool ability. I just think it's the two builds between Annihilator and Void Scarred are very kind of hit or miss. Eradicate damage is being reduced. This is more of a PvE change than a PvP change, but if you do like Clown build, it does suck and it does hurt because now your cleave is just not as strong. Your Void Rays will still hit hard, however, your Eradicate just kind of feels like it's slapping somebody rather than punching somebody, and it sucks overall. Consume damage is increased by 60%, does not affect Devourer, and that's fine. What they're again trying to say is that we want you to play for out of meta more. We don't want you to have these long metas. We want you to have these short burst window metas, and then outside of those metas still feel impactful. Basically, if you go into meta and make a mistake, you're not as punished. So you want to play for your out of meta damage as well. Void meta also decreases Void Ray damage by 27% now, so it's 40 instead of 67. I don't like this personally. I'm a very big Void Ray fan, but it is what it is. You can't blame Blizzard. Devourer was completely broken season 1, PvE and PvP, so seeing these nerfs is not surprising. Impending Apocalypse increases damage of the next Collapsing Star by 20 rather than 30%. Again, this is just a shot to Annihilator. They're just trying to say that we don't want you having these long metas. We don't want you going to 6, 7 stars, 8 stars even, if you're in right conditions in one single meta and having just that massive damage ramp. And the big change that I think is going to really affect us in PvP is this Hungering Slash change. So Hungering Slash, how it worked now, was when you pressed Hungering Slash, you got a completely free cast of Vengeful Retreat, and it also reset its cooldown. So for every Vengeful Retreat and Hungering Slash you had, you got 3 of them. Rather now, it just gives a charge. So we're going from 3 to 2. It's going to be really awkward for BGB players because you have to readjust to how to outplay it, but it does suck for Glimpse spam, but it's the correct change overall. It did have to have that nerfed. It was very strong. It also means if you liked playing the no versatility build, you are going to be punished for it now. It's a very smart change by Blizzard. Just kind of sucks that it took them this long to do it because now we're going to have to readjust through the season. For Annihilator talents, Otherworldly Focus just increases the damage by a single target for 30% rather than 35%. Small damage hit, nothing crazy. And Final Hour now causes Voidfall. The bonuses where you get the haste bonus and the damage bonus. It lasts for 6 seconds rather than the full 8 seconds. They're just trying to keep us out of meta as long as we can. As for our PvP changes, Consume damage is being reduced by 40% and Devour damage reduced by 8% to PvP. So these are the interesting changes because if you looked on the PvE changes rather, you would see we're getting all these massive buffs, 32% here, 30% here, all this stuff out of damage. And then they just go into PvP and say, hey, we're just going to cut that damage by 40%. So Blizzard is trying to say is that they still want us to play out of meta. They want our goes to be specific, and they don't want our goes to be extended lengths of time. If you're familiar with like Legion Shadow Priest with the Insanity build where they would just have 300% sanity gain and then die at the end of it, they're essentially trying to avoid that type of playstyle, and they're trying to make us your in-between moments matter. So if you like Clown build, I think these changes are really good and healthy for Clown build players. However, the build is going to suck. Overall, I do think that Blizzard did a pretty solid job in this change. They nerfed the correct things, and I'm not surprised by the nerfs in the slightest. It's kind of unfortunate that we had to get nerfed as hard as we did, but if we didn't, we would have had another season of just raw dominance. But quickly, I do just want to go over our talent builds for the next season. So actually, if we just open up here and we pull up these pages, so we're looking at our Void Scar build. If you want to continue playing Void Scar, it is actually not bad to play. I wouldn't be surprised if you're playing this build in next season, and it's going to be completely fine to play. However, we're going to be doing some new stuff next season. If you are familiar with the changes going into 12.1 for PvE Devourers, Void Scarred is our highest simmed kind of damage. It's the best one, and we use Collapsing Star in it. And this is going to be the build we're going to be playing. So right now, the only major changes you're going to be seeing is that we take 4 points into Midnight, so that we have the instant star when we go into Void meta. We are playing Hunt. We are not playing Devourer's Bite. We are playing Umbral Blade, and we are playing Collapsing Star. These are the major changes. And really what it means and how we're going to be playing is you're going to go meta, you're going to press Collapsing Star, and then you're going to Void Blade. Alternatively, you could be going into meta, Void Blading into Collapsing Star. And you're going to try and abuse Void Rush as much as possible. Now keep in mind, this is the alternate build. We also have the Hunt, and that is fine. You can play around with some of your talents. I think if you're going to change any talent here, you might get rid of Calamitous for Devourer's Bite, and that would be okay. But the personal build I like to play this upcoming season that I think is going to be really good, again, keep in mind, I do have to do testing, is going to be this, a no Hunt Void Scarred C-Star build. And how this is going to work is, it's the same rotation as I just said. You're going to go into meta, you're going to Void Blade, you're going to Collapsing Star, and then you're going to try and PvE as much damage as possible. Now do keep in mind, we will be playing Emptiness. We want to have up to 3 stars in our meta bursts, and we want to get them as fast as possible, with as much haste as possible, going into Void Rushes. Void Rush lets you reduce the cooldown of Void Blade. You are trying to ramp up your damage as much as possible for as many stars as you can get out in a meta window, while also getting the benefits of Devourer's Bite. This is why we play Umbral Blade next season. It is something we are just going to essentially enjoy. Now, for stats, obviously I will work on a guide next season once the season actually releases. I haven't seen the tier sets, so I'm not going to speak too much heavily on them, but generally this season, if you saw my builds, you would know I play pretty much verse heavy. I think it's more important, it's more consistent, you're going to have the best builds possible. But of course, we do stack as much haste as possible, or verse as possible, and then we get as much haste as we can outside of that. Generally speaking, it's 12 to 16% haste. For 12.1, however, I don't think we're going to be stacking versatility. I think you are going to be going probably an even split in between versatility, haste, and crit. So if I had to make a rough estimate, maybe go for 12% haste, maybe go 16% haste, whatever you're comfortable with. Rest into crit, rest into verse. If you're overcapping on crit, or you feel like you're just going too heavy into crit, maybe throw some in mastery. But generally speaking, we're going to be playing a much more bursty style, which means our goes are going to be a lot more important, and we're going to have to find avenues within essentially the games themselves to do a lot of out of burst damage. So focus more on doing your consumes into reaps. Our combos matter more, and I would recommend that you guys do try at least practice this build before the season starts, just to see how you like it. Annihilator is pretty much going to be dead next season. I'm sure there's going to be some builds that crop up, but 100 Souls will be dead. Clown build is going to be dead. So if you're going to be playing Annihilator, it's completely for Collapsing Star purposes. So maybe it's going to be more of a BGB thing, but for arenas, we are going to be playing mostly Void Scarred. Other than that, I hope you guys have fun. I hope you enjoyed. Love you.